The sound of that ladder crashing into my flower bed still echoes in my head, a sharp metallic clang followed by a thud and a scream that cut through the quiet of our little suburb. There I was, standing at my kitchen window, coffee mug frozen in my hand, watching Linda Carver, the iron-fisted HOA president, sprawled in my backyard, her pristine white blouse now streaked with dirt, her precious iPhone cracked beside her. For months, she'd been making my life hell violation notices, snide comments, even whispers about my unsuitable lifestyle, all because my wild, colorful garden didn't fit her vision of perfection for Crestwood Heights. But that morning, sprawled among my crushed zinnias, she wasn't the untouchable queen of the HOA anymore. She was just a woman caught red-handed, and my security cameras had it all on tape. That fall wasn't just a tumble, it was the crack that split open a decade of lies, exposing a web of control and corruption that ran deeper than I ever imagined. I'd only been in Crestwood Heights a few weeks when it all started. I'd inherited my Aunt Clara's old craftsman home, a quirky sage-green beauty with creaky floors, stained glass windows, and a garden that looked like it belonged in a fairy tale. As a graphic novelist, I fell in love with its chaos bursts of lavender sunflowers and climbing roses that defied the manicured lawns around me. Aunt Clara had poured her heart into that garden, and I could feel her spirit in every overgrown corner, every hand-painted birdhouse. But the neighbors, they weren't so charmed. I'd catch them peering over hedges, whispering as I hauled in my easel and paint-splattered jeans. Only one guy, an older professor named Carl from across the street, gave me a quick nod before scurrying inside when Linda's sleek black SUV cruised by. Then came the doorbell. There she was, Linda Carver, HOA president, mid-50s, with a blonde bob so sharp it could cut glass and a smile that never reached her eyes. "Welcome to Crestwood Heights," she said, handing me a binder thick enough to knock someone out. "Our community standards. I'm sure your aunt told you how we do things here." Her voice dripped with that polite venom you only hear from people who thrive on control. I mumbled something about reading it later, but the way she said standards like I was already failing told me everything I needed to know. This wasn't a welcome, it was a warning. That night, unpacking in Clara's attic studio, I found her old gardening journal, its leather cover worn soft. Page after page detailed her battles with Linda. She tried to ban my hollyhocks today, said they were too tall. What she really hates is that my garden won first at the county fair, not hers. Clara's words painted a picture of a woman who'd been Linda's rival for years, her untamed garden a middle finger to the HOA's obsession with conformity. And now it seemed I'd inherited that fight. Trouble started fast. I planted some of Clara's favorite marigolds along the fence, bright orange and defiant. By morning, a neon yellow violation notice was taped to my door, unauthorized flora excessive vibrancy. A $500 fine. I called the HOA office, and who picked up Linda herself. "Oh, James," she purred like she was scolding a kid. "Your aunt and I had an arrangement." She pushed boundaries, but I let it slide out of pity. "I'm afraid you'll need to step up." I could practically hear her smirking through the phone. Over coffee with Carl, I got the real story. "Linda's been running this place like her personal kingdom for a decade," he said, glancing over his shoulder. "She's driven out anyone who doesn't fit her mold family's artists, you name it. I stay because I've got tenure and a lawyer on speed dial." He told me about a young couple, the Ramirezes, who'd left after endless fines for unapproved mailbox colors. It wasn't just petty, it was targeted. Things got uglier. One night I caught a shadow by my fence, someone dousing my marigolds with something that reeked of chemicals. By dawn, they were wilted black at the edges. I took soil samples to a lab, and sure enough, industrial herbicide, the kind you don't just buy at Home Depot. No proof it was Linda, but the timing screamed her name. I wasn't about to let her win. I installed hidden cameras, planted new flowers, and dug into Clara's journal for clues. That's when I found a note tucked in the back: "If I'm gone, check the shed." Linda's not just a bully, she's dangerous. In Clara's garden shed, I found her secret weapon, tiny sensors she'd built herself, a botanist's dream. They tracked soil changes, moisture, even chemical traces, all logged to a cloud server. Clara had been watching her garden like a hawk, and now I could too. I transplanted those sensors into my new daisies, set up motion lights, and waited. If Linda came for me again, I'd have her. Meanwhile, I started sketching a webcomic, The Thorn Queen, a dystopian satire about a tyrant named Empress Lila who ruled her suburb with an iron fist. It was my way of coping a jab at Linda's ego. I posted it anonymously, never expecting anyone to care. But people did. Comments rolled in. This is my HOA, Lila's my neighbor. It was cathartic, but it also made me reckless. Then came the real escalation. One night my cameras caught Tom Carver, Linda's husband, a slick tech CEO, planting a listening device under my window. I yanked it out, heart pounding, and called the cops. They filed a report but brushed me off when I mentioned Tom. The Tom Carver, the guy who funds the police gala, the officer said, raising an eyebrow. That's a big accusation, buddy. Next morning, my car was vandalized, freak artist scrawled in red paint across the hood. Whoever did it knew my camera's blind spots. Linda was playing dirty and she had the whole town in her pocket. I was rattled, but Carl and a new ally, Rachel, a renter who'd been quietly photographing Linda's schemes, kept me grounded. Rachel showed me her stash of evidence photos of Linda keying cars, dumping trash on problem lawns. She's done this forever, Rachel said, her voice low, but no one's had the guts to fight back. Inspired, I kept planting, kept drawing, kept digging. Then at an HOA meeting, I called out the vandalism. Linda cut me off, her voice like ice. James, we're sorry about your little gardening mishap, but without proof, you're just whining. Maybe stick to drawing. The room snickered and I felt 2 inches tall. But the tide was turning. Rachel's photos, my comic's growing buzz, and a tip from an old HOA secretary named Ellen pushed me forward. Ellen slipped me a note. Clara knew Linda's secrets. Check her desk. In Clara's antique desk, I found a hidden drawer with documents, plans for a Carver Plaza, a massive development that needed my land to work. Linda and Tom had offered Clara millions to sell. She'd refused, and now I knew why they hated me. I was in their way. The breaking point came one crisp morning. My phone pinged a sensor alert. I peeked out and saw Linda, ladder in hand, sneaking into my yard. She climbed up, snapping photos of my daisies, her face twisted with obsession. Then it happened. She stretched too far. The ladder wobbled and down she went, crashing into my flowers with a scream that woke half the block. I ran out, phone in hand, as she writhed in the dirt. "You pushed me," she shrieked, clutching her ankle. "I'll sue you for assault." I held up my footage, calm as I could manage. "Linda, the cameras say otherwise. You're trespassing." She called the cops, but my evidence was ironclad. The sensors confirmed herbicide traces from her fall, matching samples from her garage. Linda's lawsuit, a $2 million claim for emotional distress, crumbled when a judge saw the tape. "This is extortion. Mrs. Carver," he said, ordering her to pay my fees. The neighborhood gossip mill churned and my comic exploded online, with readers dubbing Empress Lila Ladder Lady. Linda's empire was cracking and I wasn't alone anymore. Rachel turned out to be an undercover journalist working on a big expose. Ellen handed over years of HOA records showing Linda siphoning fees into Tom's shell companies. Former residence people Linda had bullied out came forward with stories of harassment, racial targeting, even blackmail. At a packed HOA meeting, Rachel stood up, press badge gleaming. "I'm with the Oregon Herald," she said. "Tomorrow we're dropping a story on Linda Carver's corruption, embezzlement, coercion, the works." The room went silent. Linda's face drained of color, and for once she had no comeback. The Herald's article hit like a bomb. It detailed $1.8 million in misspent HOA funds linked to Carver projects. City officials were named tied to Tom's bribes. The FBI swooped in, raiding the Carver's mansion, carting off laptops and files. Tom took a plea deal, 5 years probation, his reputation toast. Linda got probation too, plus a restraining order banning her from Crestwood. Their house sold at a loss, bought by a noisy family who tore down Linda's gaudy fence. The irony was delicious. My garden bloomed brighter than ever, a tribute to Clara. I turned part of it into Clara's Corner, a community plot where kids planted seeds and neighbors swapped tips. Crestwood's HOA reformed with clear rules and no more power trips. The Thorn Queen got a book deal, and I used the advance to fund Clara's Corner. Rachel and I grew close, our late-night talks over wine turning into something more. She moved in her desk overlooking the garden that started it all. But it wasn't over. A year later at Clara's Corner's first festival, I spotted Linda across the street, sunglasses low, watching me. That night, an anonymous email arrived, a video of someone prowling my garden, flashlight in hand. No face, just a shadow. Rachel frowned, her reporter's instincts kicking in. "She's still out there, isn't she?" I nodded, but I wasn't scared. "Let her watch," I said, planting a new row of marigolds. This garden's stronger than her. Crestwood's a different place now, open, alive, free. But that video sticks with me. Was it Linda or just some ghost of her grudge? I don't know. What I do know is Clara's garden taught me something. Control fades, but beauty endures. So what about you? Ever dealt with a Linda in your life, someone who tried to crush what makes you you? Drop a comment. Tell me your story, because trust me, these battles, they're never just about a garden.